Welcome to Voices of the North, a mini podcast series for the Culture Bar, made in collaboration with Talent Norway. Together, we will introduce you to some of the finest talents and rising stars of the North and bring you the voices of cultural and artistic leaders of Scandinavia. Hi, and welcome to the first episode of our new podcast mini-series called Voices of the North. I'm Caroline from Harrison Parrott, and I'll be your host today. Today, our topic will be peak performance, art and context. In today's society, the arts are constantly being tested and challenged. Many art forms are affected by local restrictions and government regulations, and performers may be limited or even prohibited from practicing and performing. Others may seek alternative ways of sharing and expressing their art. How can the arts sector respond and react to these and other societal challenges? What can the society do to help artists through these challenging times? And what can we do on a communal level? How can we help artists achieve their best and facilitate an environment that promotes peak performance? And what can an individual artist do to get through these challenging times while still being able to stimulate their performance and creativity? To reflect on these questions, I have three wonderful guests with me here today. Audhild Dahlström, Head of Knowledge and Initiatives at Sparebank 1 Nord-Norge and Board Member of Talent Norway. In addition to being based in Northern Norway, Audhild has lived and worked in the UK for years and have broad experience in analytics and strategy, including work in the arts and culture sector both in Norway and Great Britain. We also have Tom Henning Øvrebø with us here today. Tom Henning is a research fellow at the Norwegian School of Sports Science, where he's focusing on mental health for top athletes. He is a clinical psychologist and has also served as an international football referee for 17 years, which included many Champions League games and hundreds of matches of the Norwegian Eliteserien. Our third guest, Jarle Ombø, also has a background in the top-level sports sector. He is currently the CEO of Iglo Innovation and the Norwegian High Performance Cluster, and have spent several years as both coach and director for projects related to the Norwegian Olympic Summit, with focus on alpine sports and the annual performance and achievement seminars. Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to have you here with me today.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Hiya.
I would like to start the discussion by reflecting a bit on the challenges artists are currently facing. 2020 has been a challenging year for many of us, but being in a field where one must constantly achieve and perform to the best of one's ability may make the situation even more stressful. How does living with accelerated levels of stress and fear affect one's ability to perform? Tom Henning, I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I think it's an interesting question because I think a lot of different people on different performance areas experience these things at the present moment. And I like a quote from a guy named William Parham. He's the NBA director of mental health in NBA. And he said that the COVID-19 is like an equal opportunity virus. So I like that statement. It can of course be said on a negative way, but it can also be looked up on a positive way. But I think that as the current situation is, that a lot of people, not only in the art business but also outside art and outside top sport, elite sport, now facing challenging times, and these times will of course also influence on the mental health and on the motivation of people, or on the creativity. So a lot of people get influenced by in a negative way, and it doesn't matter if you are an art person or if you work on a fabric or whatever you do. You can always be influenced by this virus. So I think that a lot of people experienced a fear these days, because a fear for the future, a fear for exposure to the virus, maybe also fear for the economical situation they are in, and of course this can be very difficult for some people, and some people also develop more mental issues or mental problems concerning this. So I think we have to acknowledge in a way that a lot of people struggle in these times, but at the same time we have to find out how can we manage, and how can we cope, and how can we still work and be creative. Yeah.
Absolutely. It may be hard for people to know what to look forward to. A lot of artists or athletes, they usually have a goal or something to practice towards, like a competition or a concert or an exhibition. Now there might not really be a specific event one can look forward to. What can an artist do to keep on going and have something to, yeah, have something to work
Yeah,
towards?
from my point of view, these kind of goals are, of course, one of the things that really drives us to work hard. But I think also it's important to look at your own values. What is important for me? How can I be an artist or a performer during the current circumstances? And maybe these days your values should be emphasized more than your goals. Uh, and also to try to live more in the moment, because we don't know what happens next week. We don't know what happens in 2 weeks. We don't know what happens in 2 months. So try to be more grounded in a way, and to be more present in the moment, and to try to figure out or reflect upon how can I, during these circumstances, still be creative? How can I still work towards my value as an artist or as an elite athlete? What can I do on a daily basis, despite the difficult situation we know are facing?
Absolutely. How can the community help artists in this unprecedented time? Are there any specific key elements they could help with for sustaining or creating an environment that promotes top achievements, even in these troubled times?
I agree with Tom Henning that when time is unstable or unpredictable, it seems that the need of going back to your values is very important. And in our project, where we work with performers for all parts of the society, we see that the best people or the best artists have something in common, and that is to really see opportunities in resistance, or in when things get unsure. They have a kind of trigger when things not is going and in the direction what they used to. So resistance is one of the indicators. We see that a lot of performers use from different part of the society. So stick to the values and see what's really is important. Why do you do what you are in a way? But I also said that I think also that could be something in changing the question, what can this society do for you, instead what can I do for society? In that way also maybe you find meaning, or you find something that really can do for others, and in that way you also do something for yourself.
I think that's a really valid point you're raising there, because at the moment we are not just facing the COVID-19 challenges. We have challenges in regards to climate change. We have challenges in regards to changing economies. Health costs are increasing. Infrastructure needs financing, and the whole adaptation to the climate changes, which is, not just influencing us as people, but also the economy and businesses. So I think creative people are in much bigger demand now, going into these new times, than maybe in the last 10 years. I think that artists and people who work with innovation, new ideas, thoughts, are really in a situation where we need them to help us find new solutions, and also find out what are our values as human beings in meeting all of these challenges. So I think that's a lovely point you're raising there. Art isn't something that's just floating on top and you can use in good times, but actually art is the grassroots. It's the texture, the very texture of us as human beings and our society. So and also from an economic perspective, art is hugely important. It's a very good point you raised.
This is amazing. Yes, absolutely. One could, in many ways, I guess, say that creativity and innovation goes hand in hand. So for maybe smaller communities, for example, up in the north, do you think strengthening and helping artists could also lead to innovation in other fields such as energy development, education, tourism, finance, and healthcare, for example?
Yeah, and it's not so much about helping artists, okay? Because artists are in their own right, career people. But what I think is important is to emphasize the need human beings and growing societies have for the arts, because the arts is a component in economic growth, is a component in regional development, is a very important social aspect of the world, which can lead to new ideas and new solutions. And I'm not saying that artists should solve all the problems in the world, but arts and culture is an integral part of looking at challenges in a different way, which again can foster new ideas and lead to a society meeting problems in a different way, be more robust in their meeting with challenges.
And I think that an important aspect of this comment is that when people are in different kind of crisis, and now we see this big, huge global crisis, we all want to survive. We all want to live, and sometimes these crises can also force us to find new ways to work and new ways to be creative. And we don't know what the future brings. For instance, some research, and that has nothing to do with COVID, but some research shows that 60% of the school children that started in first grade in the school in the States now, they will start with works we have not even heard of yet. So we don't know what the future will bring us. And I think that also when we have difficult times like now, new ways of being creative, new ways of managing your work will also be pushed forward, and people will also find new ways to solve things. So I think that even the fact that COVID is a big problem for the global community, I also think that people will find new ways to cope, and I think that is a good thing.
I think from sport and our perspective, we also now can see in a way the advantage of having working in a very holistic perspective for quite a long time. So being an artist in this time is much also about to reflect and back to your values, but also find where you are, and in a holistic way, to your family, to your friends, to emphasize things like your health, all the way what you eat, sleep, and this kind of things. So this has been an important part of developing top athletes for quite a long time, and it seems to me that some other parts of the society still have work to do to bring up this topic. And I think also this time we are in now is the time for bringing up the holistic perspective of what we are doing.
And I think that if I just could comment on that, because I find it quite interesting, the more holistic perspective, which is now also very much included in elite sport, and to also acknowledge that on an individual level, it's quite normal now to have a lack of motivation, to maybe feel a little bit in the blues or even depressed, to maybe have some sleeping difficulties or some sleeping problems, or to mess up your circadian rhythm. So there are some things also at the individual level. I think it's important just to accept that, well, this is common. This is not like a clinical case. For me and for a lot of people now, it's common now to struggle a little bit, and to accept that, but then try as best to get a kind of structure, get some goals. Maybe you can have during the day. Maybe you can grasp some new things you can learn, whatever it is. But to try to have some structure, and maybe also to lean on some colleagues. I don't know how all the artist community is, but maybe a lot of people, or at least some, are not used to cooperate with others. Maybe they, in this time, a little bit more should try to meet up on Zoom or Teams or whatever it is, just to reflect upon different difficulties and challenges they are facing. So also to use each other in this challenging time, I think it's important, and to support each other.
Yeah, I fully agree about that. And as a sport, in sport, you have normally a coach or is a part of a team. And as an artist, you might not have that kind of structure. But then it's more the question how to find your coach, to find your colleague, or find that you can discuss these kind of things and reflect together to be more aware of what this is really about. And as Tom Henning says, to share the things, and in that way make it easier to cope with.
May I ask, now that we're in a time that a lot of artists are using digital means to reach their audience, that might actually open up some new doors. Many artists have earlier moved to big cities because there are more opportunities and more contacts at such places. Right now, when things are mostly digital, you may not really be that dependent on your local fan bases and local resources. Could this be an opportunity for smaller communities, perhaps in the north, not to help necessarily, but attract artists and help facilitate their establishment and growth in a community?
I think, of course, the way we've been thrown into digital tools in the last few months have been a great success for many of us, and it's opened up it sounds ridiculous to say it, but it's actually opened up quite new ways of working. We had the tools, but we preferred to meet. It's interesting to see Bloomberg was writing an article in May where the headlines, contemporary art needs big gatherings and gossip to survive. So of course, there's something very sociable and something very physical about arts and culture, which it should be, and it's very important aspect of it. So I think there's never a plain answer, yes or no, to your question. I think there's an issue of looking at how you can dynamically move in between different medias, how you can utilize different tools in different ways, but neither is the answer. It is a social and it is a complex emotional and textured sector, the arts and culture, and that's why it adds value. So I think I really do hope that we'll find vaccination for the coronavirus, so that we can meet in big groups, so that we can have big gatherings, and arts and culture can survive and thrive, because we need the physical space in which we share.
Absolutely. When things are better, when we're more back to normal, do you think people will be eager to go back into concert halls, or do you think people will need to be eased back into it?
I think that, getting back to normal is a different kind of normal. I think it would change the economy, it would change societies, it would change the way we look at what's a big gathering. It would change the way we look at what's central, what's not central, what's the region, where's the center, where are you in the districts. It would change a lot of the preconceived ideas that we have about this. So, of course, there'll be a level of anxiety through meeting big groups, but I think that socially we're so connected, and there's so much possibility in the social aspect, that I think, once we do get back to some kind of new normal, I think we will still meet. Absolutely, yeah.
I also think it's an interesting question, what is normal? We are talking about going back to the normal or making a new normal, but isn't normal something that we have done for a while? That means that we are now creating something new, a new normal. And we are learning every day how to do things. And there's also this question about the big audience or small audience. And I think we now see more and more also the value of small groups, the intensity or intimacy of small groups and small audience. So I think that is one of the very interesting things for the future. We have been a lot of focus on quantity and big, and of course for some settings it's needed and also very valued to have big group of people together. But maybe the small group also will have a new setting for the future.
I'd just like to comment on that, because I had a discussion with an English colleague yesterday, and he was reflecting on some tendency they saw in British sport now, for instance, in Premier League in football. At the Premier League now, where no spectators were there had been an increased number of goals, for instance. So we were discussing it, that this means that actually elite athletes perform better when there's no spectators there. And you can also then relate this to this comment from Jarle, which I found very interesting, because it could be that maybe some artists and others, when they then start to maybe perform for smaller groups, start to be more creative to perform better, instead of the performing anxiety maybe you can have sometimes when you perform for 8,000, 10,000, 15,000 people. So in that respect, maybe also it could be an advantage if we should try to look for something positive in this difficult situation, that with performing before in front of small groups could also influence your performance in a positive way.
Yeah, and that brings us back to the question of your values, right? What are your values? Is the values in performing in front of thousands of people, or is your value to deliver something of very high quality to no matter how many people is listening? You know, it's the quality and the depth of what you're presenting that actually matters. So then you're back to values and this human social texture.
And I think that is very important, as you mentioned there, Odile, that you can see now that I think especially elite sport, and also I think also art is very goal oriented, as we mentioned earlier, and it will continue to be that. But I think that we also emphasize the more value driven performances, and for me, I have done that also before COVID, but I think that I see a tendency now that more people try to look for their own values. So I think that can be also a good thing, that they maybe see the value of that, and maybe they also will continue to do that after COVID-19 when we are more normalized. And I think that is positive for not only for performance but also for our daily life, that we live a life that is more value based than goal oriented. So in that respect, I think it's positive.
Yeah, we see in back to our project across the society, we see that there might be a slight difference also between artist and art excellence artist, because we can see that the high level artists, they are much more process driven than maybe some of the others. So of course they are working towards goals and their vision, but as long as you're focused on the process, you maybe have it's not easier, but it's better in a way to work these days, where you focus on your own or your skills or the task that you are struggling with, and not depending too much of having all the concerts or matches or competitions. But this time you also maybe have to stick with this and work with this and be more focused and reflect about your what is important for you when you are struggling to develop yourself as an artist.
Right. If young artists are unsure on how to really decide or find their values, would you have any tips or tricks you could share?
Well, I would like to comment on that, because I think it's all about what kind of person or what kind of artist do you want to be? What do you want your life to be about? And if you manage to answer to these quite difficult existential questions, I think you can then get closer to your values. For instance, I want to be a psychologist that at least I would like to be empathic and respectful in my approach to my clients, and that's important values for me. And I think also young artists can find the important values by reflecting upon what is important for me. How do I want to live my life? How do I want to be perceived as an artist? And by doing that, I think you can then try to grasp some of your important values. And these values can guide you through life, because one thing is a goal, and a goal has like a finishing point where you can reflect upon, did I reach the goal? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? So and then you have to find a new goal. But the values, that is more like your compass throughout life. So if you find out those values, I think it will be easier also to survive in a way when you are facing difficult times like now.
And connected to that, I feel that diversity is very powerful and making a lot of energy. So if you are able to go a little bit out of your own setting or your own frame in these troubled days, and find the energy and find your passion through other people's that are struggling with different things, I think this is also an arena that you can develop and get this energy to take the next step.
This has been a very inspirational talk, and thank you so much to Jarle, Audhild and Tom Henning for joining us today, and to our sound editor Merlin Thomas. And thank you for listening to Voices of the North. If you would like to know more about Talent Norway and their projects, please visit www.talentnorge.no/tnarena.